Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Bethcast and Sabbath Fellowship, and I'm on part B of chapter 16. I'm asking you what time it is on God's clock as we move forward into this amazing chapter of the bowls. We've moved along in the bowls. We're preparing for the sixth bowl, which is like saying we're preparing for Armageddon, okay? And so you've got the front story, which is the bowls are being poured out and the people aren't repenting. And the back story is that Israel is out in the wilderness at this point in time, and God is teaching them things, and they are learning about the Bible again, okay? And they're learning probably about how Yeshua fits in the Bible everywhere. He's everywhere in the Bible, all the way through from Genesis to Revelation. And he's really in Revelation as we move forward, okay? So then at some point in time, they have to come to this area and have all the nations of the world try to kill them there. We'll try to explain a little bit more about that in a while here, okay? So what's happening right now is we are in Revelation 16, 15 through 16, and I'm saying the concept of this is Shamar Yehukim, okay? You wouldn't know the Hebrew, but I'm going to explain it to you. Shamar in Hebrew talk would be like guarding, safeguarding, protecting, like you have your kid's sister with you, and your parents say, you better take care of your kid's sister, and so, you know, you protect her from all the bullies and whatever else, okay? So that's shamaring, and hukim are things that you don't understand that you need to do. These are just good, righteous deeds, and God doesn't explain everything to you. You just do the right thing. You know the right thing. It's written on your heart, okay? And we're setting up for this Sukkot-type Armageddon. There are 70 nations coming against Israel. So he says, look, I am coming like a thief. It happens fast. How blessed are those who stay alert and keep. Shamar is the word. It goes right back through the Greek into the Septuagint as shamar, safeguard, okay? And I'm adding this word in, bridal clothes. And I'm going to explain more to you that you're going to get these righteous garments for the bridal when you're marrying Yeshua, for that bridal ceremony and the marriage supper of the Lamb. But those clothes, you need to keep them clean. And what does that mean? We'll talk about that, okay? So that you won't be walking around naked and publicly put to shame. And this is in the text, actually, so you won't be walking naked and publicly put to shame. And I'm going to show you back in Song of Solomon, of all the verses and of all the chapters, I'll show you from there how this applies. And they gathered the 70, it's going to be 70, that is the way of saying the nation, so to speak, to the place. And the Hebrew tongue is called Har Megiddo, Armageddon, however you want to phrase it. It is a tell. It is like a little tiny tell top, which would be like, it's technically Har means mountain, but it's not like a mountain. It's more like a flat area with a little tell on it. Okay? So let's talk about the prepared clean virgins that have oil, but they have fine linen, and that's the hukim, as I've been talking about. Hukot, hukim. These are important decrees that you just have to keep, and they're everywhere popping up in Revelation. Okay? So, fine linen, bright and clean, has been given her to wear. Fine linen means the righteous deeds, dikaioma in the Hebrew, or hukim, and it's something prescribed, a statute or a due. They're messianic decrees kept without knowledge of why, of God's people, okay? And I had to flash forward here to chapter 19. Yeah, I know we're in 16, but I wanted to show you what you're getting to so that you wouldn't say, he's doing the bowls, I'm miserable, this is horrible to have to listen to this, and realize that Armageddon is coming. And we're setting up for it in this particular section of chapter 16. So I want to show you that when you keep these deeds, these things that you don't even understand, and some of them are quite simple, blessing God, blessing your family, feeding the hungry, going to prison to take care of people that are unjustly convicted, things that don't necessarily make sense. You just do the right thing. Do the right thing. You know that. It's on your heart. Okay? Now, we'll give you a little bit better description of safeguarding, shamaring, his word, his mitzvot, his hukim. Okay? Mitzvot would be good deeds, like my tzitzits when I wear those. Those remind me of the good deeds that we're supposed to do. And that's written into Deuteronomy. Okay? So, shamar is a verb to keep, watch, preserve, like watchmen. Interesting. Now, if we go into the Greek, it's tereho, and that is very interesting. It means guard again, but as we drop on down, keep on moving down the line there, to keep unmarried. What? Okay, that's anti-God to keep somebody unmarried. That is anti-God. He wants you to get married and make babies and produce life and love him and be in relationship with him. So why are the Greeks thinking that this means to keep unmarried, hold fast, keep watch over a bride, preventing whoring around? Yeah, we're going to see that as we go to Song of Solomon. Okay, here we are. This is the fast overview, and we're going to dig in a little bit, but there are shomrim. So if I go to an Orthodox Jewish wedding, and there are people standing around protecting the bride and protecting the groom too from seeing each other, okay? And that's what we're doing right now with Yeshua. We're not seeing him, he's not seeing us, because there are shomrim, angels, protecting each one from each other, okay? Because it's not the time to get married yet, okay? They shamar you, they guard you from whoring around in this particular section. I will get up now and roam the city, through the streets and open places. I will look for the man, Satan, I'm saying, that I love, okay, or a wicked man possibly, because she doesn't know what she's looking for, okay? I looked for him, but I didn't find him. The guards, Hebrew, the shomrim, roaming the city found me. Have you seen the man I love? The watchman, these shomrim, roaming the city found me. They beat me. They wounded me. Good for them. They took away my cloak. In the Hebrew, it's Didi, which is Dodi, it would be bride, but Didi would be her righteous garment. Took it away because she's roaming the city. Guess what? When you're about to be betrothed and you're roaming the city looking for bad boys, it's not righteous. You should have your righteous deeds removed. Those guardians of the walls. We're going to dig through this a little bit more in just a little bit. Okay, now let's see what Matthew says about this, and this is Yeshua's words. Okay, the kingdom of heaven at that time will be like 10 bridesmaids who took their lamps and went out to meet the groom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were sensible. The foolish ones took lamps with them, but no oil. That's no spirit, okay, and really didn't take their they didn't take their righteousness with them, okay? Whereas the others took flasks of oil with their lamps. Now the bridegroom was late, and he is. It's been 2,000 years, okay? So they all went to sleep. It was the middle of the night when the cry rang out, "The bridegroom is here! Go to meet him!" The girls all woke up and prepared their lamps for lighting. The foolish ones said to the sensible ones, "Give us some of your oil because our lamps are going out." Now they replied, "There may not be enough for you and for both you and us. Go to the oil dealers and buy some for yourselves." But as they were going off to buy, the bridegroom came. Those who were ready went with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut. Later the other bridesmaids came. "Sir, sir," they cried, "let us in." But he answered, "Indeed, I tell you, I don't know you. So stay alert, because you know neither the day or the hour." Don't be out in the city going to parties and having fun when you know you're supposed to be in your bridal closet and the shomrim are supposed to be protecting you and not beating you up because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, okay? Now we're going to dig back into Song of Songs after we read a little bit from Matthew. So the righteous bride, she was where she didn't belong, right? Okay, so night after night in my bed, I looked for the man I love. I looked for him, but I didn't find him. I will get up now and roam the city. Remember the story of Dinah back with Jacob's daughter? Okay, so she had 12 brothers and then Dinah. She went into the city, and the shoulders people, Shechem, raped her. Okay, that's because she wasn't supposed to be out unattended, unescorted, with no shomrim, so to speak. So, through the streets and the open places, I will look for the man I love. I looked for him, but I didn't find him. The guards, these shomer, these shushvanim, roaming the city, found me. "Have you seen the man I love?" Scarcely had I left them when I found the man I love. I took hold of him. But was it really the man she loved? Probably not, because she's still looking for them later on. And would not let him go until I had brought him to my mother's house, to the bedroom of the woman who conceived me. I warn you, daughters of Jerusalem, don't get love going until it's actually Yeshua. Okay, continuing on with chapter 5, going into depth into these verses. "I got up to open for the man I love. My hands were dripping with myrrh. Pure myrrh ran off my fingers onto the handle of the bolt. I opened for my darling, but my darling had turned and gone. My heart had failed me. When he spoke, I sought him, but I couldn't find him. I called him, but he didn't answer." The watchmen, these shushvanim, these guards, they're supposed to be doing the right thing, roaming the cities, found me, they beat me, they wounded me, they took away my cloak. Again, I said Didi, like Dodi would be bride, Didi is her bridal cloak. "Those guardians of the walls, I charge you, daughters of Jerusalem, that if you find the man I love, what are you to tell him? That I am sick with love. but she's walking naked and ashamed because they took away the cloak. You're supposed to keep. Remember how I described? These garments are the righteous deeds that you do. You want to keep your garments. You want to be messianic, so to speak, waiting for the Messiah. Continuing on, this is what Isaiah thinks you should do in chapter 26. Your dead will live, your corpses will rise. You know, this is that second coming, okay? Awake and sing, you who dwell in the dust, for your dew is like the morning dew, and the earth will bring ghosts to life. Come, my people, the brides. I'm inserting that. It doesn't say it there, but I'm inserting it, and it makes sense. Enter your rooms, shut your doors behind you, hide yourselves for a little while until the wrath is past. See, Adonai emerges from his place to punish those on the earth for their sin. Then the earth will reveal the blood shed in it and no longer conceal its slain. That's Isaiah. Okay? So we're setting up for this horrific war. There's the front story, the back story. The bowls are being poured out so that we can get the armies. And I'm arguing that it's not from Russia. Gog is coming from Turkey. He's coming from the north. It's kind of deep in the Hebrew to prove it through, but this word Zaphon from the north has that darkness angle, and that's where he's coming from. Okay. So once again, Russia isn't the Magog territory. Obama might be Gog in waiting. He's acting like it, okay? Not every war is Gog-Magog. So when you see a war happening, realize sometimes they're just wars, okay? And I'm not so sure when you see North Korea making a kissy face with South Korea that that's the end of that story. There is deception involved in this, so just be aware of it. Keep in mind that everything bisected Israel up until 70 AD. Everything is bisecting Turkey right now. And when we cover the 7 churches at the end of this, you'll see how everything's bisecting Turkey. Okay? And all of those cities were in Turkey. Everything important now, as we move forward from 1917, it bisects Israel. Everything important in the whole world. And Israel will be without weapons, other than these weapons in Sukkot, as things happen with Armageddon. Okay, and I'm going to show you these weapons in a second. They will be aligned into a structure probably similar to their marriage tent in the wilderness, where they married God in Exodus 19. Okay, Joel has a comment on this 70-nation Sukkot war. Proclaim this among the 70 nations. Prepare for war. Rouse the warriors. Let all the fighting men draw near and attack. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weakling say, I am strong. Come quickly, all you, these 70 nations from every side, and assemble there. Bring down your warriors. Lord, let the nations be roused. Let them advance into the valley of Jehoshaphat, that is Armageddon. And there I will sit and judge all the nations on every side. Swing the sickle. The harvest is ripe. Come, trample the grapes, for the winepress is full and the vats overflow. So great is their wickedness. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, that's Armageddon. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon will be darkened, and the stars no longer shine. The Lord will roar from Zion and thunder from Jerusalem. The earth and the heavens will tremble, but the Lord will be a refuge to his people. That's that hiding place, that Goshen place, okay? He will be the refuge for them and a stronghold for his people, Israel. So, what I'm saying, and this is Ezekiel's version of the Gog-Magog story. We have to handle Ezekiel to get through this particular section of chapter 16. This is going to take a while. Ezekiel has a lot to say in chapters 38 and 39. So, the word of Adonai came to me, human being, turn your face towards Gog, the leader of the land of Magog, the chief prince. We call him the Rosh, the chief, not Russia. That's Rosh, that's head, that's leader, that's chief, that's head, that's cranium, okay? Of Meshach or Tuval. That's part of modern-day Turkey. You know it is. And prophesy against them. Say what God says. I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshach and Tuval. I will turn you around, put a hook in your jaws, and bring you out with all your army, horses and horsemen, all completely equipped, a great horde, and breastplates and shields, all wielding swords. Paras, Ethiopia, Put are with them, all the breastplates and helmets. Gomer, with all of its troops. The house of Torgama and the far reaches of the north, with all its troops. Many peoples are with you. Continuing on in Ezekiel, prepare yourself. Get ready. You and all your crowd gathered around you. Take charge of them. After many days have passed, you will be mustered for service. In later years, you will invade the land which has been brought back from the sword, gathered out of many peoples, the mountains of Israel. They have been lying in ruins for a long time, almost 2,000 years. But now Israel has been extracted from the peoples, and all of them are living there securely. So before Gog attacks, they're going to be secure. They will have won a war prior to that, okay? And that'll be probably the 4th seal war. You will come up like a storm. You will be a cloud covering the land. And when it says up and they're coming down from the north, keep in mind everything goes up to Jerusalem. Okay? You and all your troops and many other peoples with you. Continuing on in 38, Adonai Elohim says, when that day comes, thoughts will well up in your mind and you will devise a sinister scheme. You will say, I'm going to invade a land of unwalled villages. Okay, technically there are walls in Israel, but as you really dig carefully in Zechariah 2, 4 through 5, you will see that God is their firewall. So he doesn't care about their puny walls. So just check that verse out. You'll see that God is their firewall. He declares it as such. He sets up the rules in Leviticus 25 and 27 of how he can redeem. But if he's the firewall, he determines how to redeem. I will take by surprise these people who are at peace, living securely, all in places without walls, bars, or gates, because God's the firewall. I will seize the spoil and take the plunder. You will attack the former ruins that are now inhabited and come against the people gathered from the nations who have acquired livestock and other wealth and are living in the central parts of the land. Shiva, Dedan, and all the leading merchants of Tarshish will ask, have you come to seize the spoil? Have you assembled your hordes to loot, to carry off silver, gold, livestock, and other wealth? Yeah, they have. To take plunder? Yeah, that's what Gog wants. Now, finishing out then in Ezekiel 39, so this is a 2-chapter section that talks about the Gog-Magog war. And Jeremiah 31 kind of is described in this with the new covenant. Okay, so therefore Adonai Elohim says this, now I will restore the fortunes of Yaakov and the compassion on the entire house of Israel, and I will be jealous for my holy name, and his name is holy. They will bear the shame and all their guilt from breaking faith with me. Once they were living securely in the land with no one to make them afraid. This will be after I have brought them back from the peoples and gathered them out of their enemies' lands, thereby being consecrated through them in the sight of many nations. They will know that I am Adonai their God, since it was I who caused them to go into exile among the nations, and it was I who regathered them into their own land. He will get the glory, not the people. I will lead none of them. I will leave none of them there anymore, and I will no longer hide my face from them. And I have poured out my spirit on the house of Israel. Okay, Zechariah describes it this way. Look, a day is coming for Adonai when you plunder. Jerusalem will be divided right there before you. For I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem for war. The city will be taken, the houses will be rifled, the women will be raped, and half of the city will go into exile. But the rest of the people will not be cut off from the city. Then Adonai will go out and fight against those nations, fighting as in the day of battle. On that day, it's a huge Hebrew phrase. I'm going to say it 1 billion times coming up here, okay? Bayom Hahu. And Zechariah has it 22 times, which is amazing. And it's not much at the beginning of Zechariah, but by the end, it's Bayom Hahu in that day. And you know that's the day of the Lord. His feet will stand on the Mount of Olives. He'll plant them, which lies to the east of Jerusalem. And then the Mount of Olives will be split to the east and the west to make a huge valley. Half the mountain will go towards the north and half towards the south. You will flee in to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains will reach to Atzel, and you will flee just as you fled before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Yehuda. Then Adonai my God will come to you with all the holy ones. On that day, B'yom Hahu, there will be neither bright light or thick darkness. So just watch for that B'yom Hahu coming up. It's going to be really busy. So this is a nuclear plague, possibly from Zechariah, so he's continuing on with that same thought. Adonai will strike all the peoples who made war against Jerusalem in Armageddon with a plague in which their flesh rots away while they are standing on their feet, and their eyes rot away in their sockets, and their tongues rot away in their mouths. When that day comes, there will be among them great panic, sent by Adonai, so that everyone lays hands on his neighbor, and who in turn attacks him. Judah will too fight against Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the nations will be assembled, gold, silver, and clothing in great abundance. A plague like this plague will affect the horses, mules, camels, donkeys, and all the other animals in those camps. So that's Zechariah's portion on this particular, we'll call it the Ezekiel 38-39 war. It's Armageddon. Okay, now, what I want you to see, and this is interesting when I became a Messianic many years ago, I saw that the 70 nations come against Jerusalem in the types and shadows of Ezekiel 38-39, Zechariah 14, Revelation 19, and Psalm 27. Okay, these are the things that we read during Sukkot. Okay, so this is from Psalm 27:5, and I want you to see it kind of in the Hebrew. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of Hebrew in this. In that day of trouble, ra'ah in the Hebrew. Okay, and it could mean northern trouble, tzasfenu, which would be northern trouble, which is coming from Turkey, okay? He will keep me Esther. Remember the story of Esther? God's not even mentioned in that particular book, but Esther is doubled up right here. That's hidden, okay? In his dwelling, Sukkah, which is when we're in the festival of nations, Sukkot, okay? You have a Sukkah, which is a temporary structure with some skak above it, which is just this kind of stuff on top, okay? And so that's how you'll be hidden. Come on, you've got asteroids coming down, you've got nations lobbing bombs at you, and you're in a temporary structure with skak on top, which is just light, flimsy branches on top. That's how he's going to hide you. He'll hide you in the shelter of a sacred tent, ohel in the Greek, in the Hebrew rather. And so he will set me high upon a rock. Well, that's another way of saying God, because God can be a Zur, a Selah type rock, but in this case, Zur, powerful rock, and that is what Yeshua is, okay? You'll be hidden in plain sight as we go into the Gog-Magog war. Okay, so here, I've been shaking this now for the last half an hour as we're talking about the second half of chapter 16. These are the weapons that they will have out in the wilderness. It'll be Sukkot time. They will have what amounts to be a sword, okay, and rocks, okay, which is an etrog in the Hebrew. And so these are the weapons that they're going to have. This is it. But they're going to be shaking it in terms of against the directions that are coming against them. So it's going to be the north, south, east, and west, and then it's going to be above them and below them. And these are the weapons of warfare that God is going to provide them as we head into this horrific time frame of the Gog-Magog war. So keep this in mind. When you have nothing, remember? Okay, so the little kid is standing there and Jesus finishes preaching and they look at him and he's got some fishes and some loaves of bread. And they say, well, this is all we have. And that's more than enough to feed 5,000 or 10,000 or whatever the number happens to be in the Bible. So as long as you have something in prayers, you have more than enough because God's on your side. Okay. Let's go back and see why they'll have these particular items. Let's go back to Leviticus 23 and discuss the weapons that they will use. But on the 15th day, this is the Sukkot time of the 7th month, when you have gathered the produce of the land, the harvest, you are to observe the festival of Adonai 7 days. The first day is to be a complete rest, and the 8th day to be a complete rest. On the first day, you shall take the choice fruit. I'm sorry, you can't read with me if I hold this way. Choice fruit, palm fronds, thick branches, and river willows, and celebrate in the presence of Adonai your God for 7 days. And then the choice fruit is an etrog. That's what they've determined. So these are these weapons that he tells you to celebrate with. Well, we don't understand this stuff. This is another one of those hukim that I keep on talking about. We don't understand. Okay, this really hurts, right? No, it really doesn't. It's God that does everything, but it's your prayers that gets God to do things, okay, and act. And this is a rock, but you know, this would probably feel good, and your enemy would say, thanks, I really could use some lemons right now. It'll cure me of my scurvy or rickets, okay? So keep in mind, these are the weapons that you're going to have, and they will be praying in the wilderness. So this is a feast to Adonai for 7 days in the year. It's a permanent regulation. That means today, that's permanent forever, generation to generation. Keep it in the 7th month. You are to live in a sukkah, okay, a sukkah, for 7 days. Every citizen has to do so. We believe Yeshua was born during this time frame. But still, there's so much to learn about this celebration and this particular festival. Whether he was born in it, whether he returns on it, it is meaningful. Generation after generation of you will know that I made the people of Israel to live in Sukkot. When I brought them out of the land of Egypt, that was their first day in Sukkot, the region of Egypt. I am Adonai your God. Thus Moshe announced to the people of Israel the designated times, the Moedim, the festivals, and that's the end of Leviticus 23, so that you can see that. Okay, so I'm arguing that they're going to be in a portion of Egypt. Well, here I can kind of point to it. A portion of Egypt, okay, and a portion of Syria, and a portion of Jordan down here, okay? They're going to be pushed into those areas, but keep in mind, those areas that you're looking at really are part of Israel when everything's all completed. So they're kind of in Israel, but they're kind of in Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, okay? Once again, Russia and Putin aren't the ones that you should watch over. You should watch over whoever's controlling Turkey. That is the area where Gog-Magog comes from, okay? So now we are finally ready to go with the 7th bowl. The 7th one poured out his bowl on the air, and with a loud voice came out of the temple. In the Greek, it's naos. That is the Holy of Holies. That's not just a bunch of buildings. That's the Holy of Holies in heaven, okay? And you're going to see that naos word used a lot in Revelation. It's very critical there, okay, from the throne saying, it is done. In the Hebrew, if I was going to say it is done, I would say kala, okay? That would be like saying bride, okay? And so there's that bridal connection right there. There are flashes of lightning, voices, peals of thunder, and there was a massive earthquake, as has never occurred since mankind has been on the earth. So violent was the earthquake, okay? Then finishing out, the great city was split into 3 parts. The cities of the nations fell, and God remembered Babel, so that's Babylon the Great, and made her drink the wine from the cup of his raging fury. Every island fled, and no mountains were to be found. And huge 70-pound hailstones fell on people from the sky. And the people cursed God still for the plague of hail. It was such a terrible plague, but they don't get it. They're not repenting. There's still that opportunity to repent, but they're not doing so. This is all bittersweet. God wants you to repent. He wants you to keep his mitzvot. He wants you to remember, like my tzitzits, remember to do something good today, okay? He just wants you to love your family, love your spouse, love people. And so love God, love people. It's very simplistic, okay? And on the other hand, you kill the prophets, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. You stone those that he sent to you. He just wants to gather you like chickens under his wings, but you refused. God is abandoning your house for this period of time, leaving it desolate until he returns, Yeshua returns, and we all say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, or Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. So the focus has always been all the way through. His sacrifice at the beginning will enable God to rebuild and restore everything at the end, and we're getting so close to that right now. You'll start seeing that as we head into 19 and 20, and you'll see all of these changes occurring, and you'll see the Genesis 1 through 3 story. You'll see the regeneration of the world in a new heaven and a new earth. So look for it. Okay, we're looking forward to the marriage supper of the Lamb, and then we're looking for a new heaven and a new earth. As I've talked about before, we have concluded the seals. We have concluded the trumpets. And now we just went through the whole bowls real fast because it's in one chapter. And that's the end of chapter 16. I hope you enjoyed it. Chapter 17 is coming up. We'll talk about Babylon. Thank you for your time.